Today we're doing one WNBA play and one MLB player prop here on PrizePicks. Before we get started, there's a link in the description below. You can sign up for PrizePicks there. Promo code TUFF, 100% deposit match. Discord link in the description. Main server completely free. Patreon link in there as well. Post all the plays that I'm making on PrizePicks for each given sport that I do play. Again, not a gambling expert, not financial advice. Simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully give you guys some insight and analysis to then make your own player prop decisions here. But let's get into it, you guys. We got two plays here. Thursday, June 15th, one WNBA, one MLB. Like I said, gonna kind of continue this process of one play from each sport, as long as there's like multiple games from WNBA and obviously MLB each day. So let's get into it, you guys. First one is gonna be a WNBA play. It's gonna be Aaliyah Boston, and I like her over 35 fantasy score here tonight against the Chicago Sky. She has hit this in 3 of her last 5 games, 3 of her last 4 more specifically. The miss against Vegas, if we take a look at, let's take a look at this game real quick. It should be a close game, 3-point spread, obviously the closest spread of any game on the slate today. But if we take a look at Aaliyah Boston, right, over her kind of last 5 games, her miss against Phoenix, she only played 23 minutes, was in some serious foul trouble against Brittany Griner. Only played 23 minutes and missed this. Still had, in 23 minutes, still had 24.9 fantasy. And then same boat here for Las Vegas. Had a serious foul trouble against the big front court of the Aces and played 22 minutes. Finished with 14.9. But before that, had 29 minutes here against Connecticut, 24-4 with 2 blocks. She hit the over here on this one, obviously. And then it really has just played well. I mean, this is her rookie season, guys. Talk about her first couple games of the year, 15-9, 1-1. In 29 minutes against the New York Liberty, 15-4, 2-1-2. She's really starting to get acclimated, has now played 30-plus minutes in 3 of her last 4 games, and really without foul trouble, would have hit the over on this in 5 straight, in my opinion. Honestly, 6 straight, in my opinion. I think, obviously PrizePicks, the sports books are starting to get an idea of how dominant Aaliyah Boston is as a player. She's coming off a game where she had 53.8 fantasy points, you guys, against the Washington Mystics in 30 minutes, 23-14, 6 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. Absolutely impressive game for her, and really starting to take control of the offense. 14 field goal attempts. I think the Indiana Fever and their coaching staff kind of realizes that their offense runs at peak efficiency when Aaliyah Boston is getting to her spots and gets a ton of touches, and obviously takes 10 plus field goal attempts as well. But I like this play for a few reasons. She just played Chicago back on June 6th, about 11 days ago or 9 days ago, and had 48.7 fantasy points in that matchup. We'll take a look at that matchup. She played 39 minutes. It went to overtime, but 25-11, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 0 turnovers, 12 for 15 from the field. And it's a great matchup. Chicago Sky against forwards, giving up the most rebounds to opponents. The most rebounds to forwards, the second most assists, the second most points per game, the second most blocks, and the second most steals. So it's an elite matchup. We take a look at some other similar forwards offensively against the Chicago Sky. Chicago is 5-5 here, but we take a look at like Brianna Stewart. She had 20, 11, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. We look at the Las Vegas Aces. Candace Parker had 10 points, 5 steals, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. I think she had, let's look at Candace Parker. Like, she literally had in that game, let's go to fantasy score. Candace Parker, they just played Chicago Sky. Candace Parker had 41.7 fantasy points, and she only played 23 minutes. She had 41.7 fantasy. We look at other players. NECA had 19, 14, 5, and 2. And then we also look at, like I said, Aaliyah Boston just had 25, 11, and 8. Nilissa Smith here, 19 minutes as well, 10, 5, and 1 assist, 2 turnovers. So it's a great matchup for Aaliyah Boston here at 35 flat. This was at 34.5. I think it actually opened up at 32.5. But I am still taking it here, playing it at 35 fantasy score tonight. And then the second play here is going to be a MLB play. It's going to be a pitcher fantasy score. And it's going to be Christian Javier over 31.5 fantasy. So we take a look at this matchup. I believe Houston's favored to win, minus 190. Over-under is at 8, and it's a home game for Houston. So we look at Houston, the last 2 starting pitchers for Houston versus Washington. Hunter Brown had 43 fantasy, and Framber Alvarez had 40 fantasy back-to-back games. Both pitchers went 7 innings, only 1 earned run in the last 2 games. Versus them, 9 combined hits. And Christian Javier is in a similar spot. I think he's in a bounce-back spot, in my opinion. Coming off a game where he had 9 fantasy, 5 innings, gave up 4 runs, only 2 strikeouts, and didn't get a win or, a quality start. But before that, had been on a nice little run of 5 straight wins, 55, 40, 40, 27, and 40 fantasy points here for Christian Javier. And he's been pretty dominant at home. We take a look at Christian Javier's splits here. At home, he has a 2.67 ERA. He's 4-1 at home as well in 33.2 innings of work, 31 hits in 33 innings. Pretty decent in my opinion here. But like I said, Christian Javier, he's hit the over on this decent amount of times. I mean, all we need is 31.6 fantasy from him tonight. He's missed this in 5 starts this season. 3 of those 5 starts have been on the road. He has had some pretty dominant games here as well, 55, 49, 40, 40. He's had 1 to 7 games this season over 40 fantasy points for Christian Javier. We take a look at the odds here on Outlier. Again, there's a link at the top of this description of this video. 7-day free trial with Outlier. Again, in my opinion, the best research tool in sports betting here. But just take a look at some of these odds, right? He's at, we'll open this in another tab here. He's at, hold on. He's at minus 135, or we'll open this one, and then I will also open this one as well, or his, yeah, let's open this one. If we take a look at some of these odds for Christian Javier, it's pretty crazy. So under 5.5 hits allowed, he's at minus 164 on Caesars, minus 145 on DraftKings, minus 135 on BetMGM to have under 5.5 hits allowed. And you can see here, last 20 games, he's hit this 80% hit rate over his last 20 games. It's absolutely a wagon to go under 5.5 hits allowed. And we also take a look at his pitching outs, right? He's at minus 173 on Caesars, minus 175 on DraftKings to go over 17.5 pitching outs, right? He's gone over this in 60% of his last 10 games. And I mean, if he gets 18 pitching outs, right, that's 18 fantasy points right there just alone. And if we take a look at Christian Javier this season, when he does, go 6 innings, he's hit the over on this all but one game against Pittsburgh, but he did give up 4 runs in that game and only struck out 3 and got no decision here. So pretty much if Christian Javier can get his 18 pitching outs, which, the sports books, giving him insane odds, minus 175 on DraftKings to get 18 pitching outs here. I like Christian Javier's chances here. And obviously, Houston's a much better team than Washington. We'll take a look at Washington's kind of splits over the last 2 weeks or so, since June 1st, again, the last 2 weeks. Washington has the 8th lowest batting average against righties on the road at batting 198. So hopefully, Christian Javier can give us 6 innings of work and Houston can get the win in this game, and this should be an easy over. Again, both his teammates have hit the over on this 40+ in their last 2 games versus Washington. So these are the 2 player props here on PrizePicks. Leah Boston over 35 fantasy score and Christian Javier over 31.5 pitcher fantasy score. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about these 2 plays. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button. As always, let's cash.